I watched my parents hand my entire life to my sister. And they didn't know I already owned everything they thought they were giving away. That was the moment my heart stopped, but not because of what they did, because of what I had already done behind the scenes. Before I tell you how I flipped their betrayal, make sure you're listening closely. This gets crazy fast. My name is Sophia, the daughter they treated like a background character in my own family. For 10 years, I kept our parents' senior care business alive late nights, double shifts, paperwork mountains, while my younger sister Lena showed up twice a month and still got praised like a princess. They called her the golden child, the future leader, the one destined to take over. Me, I was the reliable one. The one they didn't have to appreciate because I'd never walk away, but the betrayal hit harder than anything I ever imagined. One night I overheard them whispering in the dining room, voices low, excited, planning something. "We'll transfer everything to Lena. She deserves it. She's the real face of this family." My chest tightened. Everything? The whole company I built with my sweat while she posted selfies in Miami. I stood there frozen, listening to my own parents erase me from the life I had built around them. And the worst part, they didn't even feel guilty. They genuinely believed Lena deserved what I had created. But here's what they never realized. Months earlier, when I saw how they blindly favored her, I quietly started building something else. A legal structure, a nonprofit foundation, a complete transfer of all operational licenses, care protocols, staff contracts, vendor partnerships, everything that made the business function, the name on every contract. Mine. The power behind every decision? Also mine. On paper, my parents owned buildings. But I owned the business. Still, I said nothing. Not when they told Lena she was finally getting what she earned. Not when they looked at me like I was supposed to clap for my own replacement. Not when Lena smirked at me and said, "Try not to be jealous." I swallowed every emotion, every hurt, and every memory of being the invisible daughter. Because I knew the moment was coming, the day I would stop being quiet. And that day arrived at what they dramatically called the legacy celebration, where they would officially announce Lena as the new owner. The chandeliers were glowing, the guests were smiling. Lena was wearing a dress she clearly bought just to look like a CEO she wasn't in. I walked in holding a single red envelope. My parents froze when they saw me. Lena's smile twitched. Everyone sensed something was wrong. Because no one expected what I was about to put on that table. And when I placed the first item down, the entire room fell silent. The first thing I placed on the table was a set of keys. Not just any keys to every operational office, every storage facility, every vehicle the business used. My parents' eyes widened, their proud smiles fading into confusion. Lena leaned forward, her fingers twitching, as if she could snatch them from me before realizing they weren't hers to take. Then I laid down the power of attorney document. The one that gave me complete control over all decisions, all finances, and every future contract. My parents' mouths opened and closed, trying to form words, but only choking on disbelief came out. Lena's smirk had vanished. Her jaw was tight, and her usual confidence now trembled like a candle in the wind. I could feel the tension suffocating the room, yet I remained calm. Years of being underestimated had taught me one thing: power wasn't about yelling or drama. Power was quiet, invisible, and untouchable until it was revealed. Finally, I placed the red envelope in front of Lena. She hesitated, staring at it as if it were a ticking bomb. With a trembling hand, she opened it, and the letter inside made her eyes widen, then tear up, and finally she screamed, "You're joking!" But I wasn't. The letter explained everything. How I had built a foundation that legally owned all operational rights, licenses, and partnerships. Lena might inherit the buildings and the debts, but the real business, the one my parents had promised her, was untouchable. Every deal she thought she would control, every employee she expected to follow, was now under my authority. My parents were frozen, their carefully constructed plan crumbling like sand through their fingers. Lena stumbled back, tears spilling, her social mask shattered. I looked at her and I didn't even feel the need to gloat. I had already won. The crowd of family and friends was in shock. Whispers, gasps, and wide-eyed stares filled the room. Some people muttered, "How did she do this?" Others looked at my parents like they'd been punched in the gut. And in that moment, I realized the best part wasn't the victory. It was the freedom I felt. I didn't need to yell, scream, or fight. I had let them believe they were in control. Until they weren't. But just as I was about to step back and let the silence settle, Lena's voice cut through the room, a sharp, trembling scream that no one would forget. "You can't do this. This isn't fair." I smiled calmly. And then I walked out, but walking away didn't mean it was over. Because what I hadn't told anyone yet would make them question every choice they had ever made. As I left the room, the whispers followed me like shadows. I didn't glance back. The sting of their betrayal had been mine for years, and now it was time for my quiet revenge. But the story wasn't just about showing Lena what she couldn't have, it was about claiming my own life. On my own terms. By the time I reached the elevator, I was already planning the next move. Lena thought she had lost the business, but she didn't know how deep the foundation went. Every contract she assumed she could sign, every vendor she thought she could call, every operational decision already secured under my nonprofit's control. She wasn't just blocked. She was powerless. That evening, my phone buzzed. A text from one of the senior managers. "Sophia." They're in shock. No one knew the foundation existed. They're scrambling. I smiled. They had underestimated me for too long. The same parents who called me quiet and helpful. The same sister who mocked me for being serious. They'd never guessed I had been preparing for this exact moment. The next day, news spread through the industry. Vendors, staff, and even local business partners started calling, asking about the sudden change in control. Lena was exposed as the owner in name only, the public facade with zero authority. Her credibility crumbled, and my reputation skyrocketed. For the first time in my life, people looked at me not as the overlooked daughter, but as the one truly in charge. Even my parents began to panic. They made frantic calls, asking me to reconsider, offering apologies and promises. But I knew better. Their guilt couldn't undo the years of favoritism, the endless dismissals, or the countless times I had been invisible in my own home. Then came the phone call that surprised me more than anyone's reaction. Lena's. Her voice was shaky, strained, almost pleading. "Sophia, please, can we talk?" I didn't know it would go this far. I didn't answer right away. I let her words hang, heavy with the weight of realization. The little sister who had always been the golden child was now facing the consequences of being underestimated. And just as I was about to hang up, I realized something chilling. Lena wasn't just shocked, she was dangerous. She would try to fight back, to reclaim what she thought was hers. And I had to be ready, because the next move could either destroy her or draw me back into the storm I had carefully escaped. Over the next few weeks, the tension didn't fade, it intensified. Lena tried everything, calling lawyers, confronting vendors, even begging some employees to switch sides. But every attempt crashed against the walls of the foundation I had built. Every move she made only exposed her desperation. My parents, on the other hand, oscillated between pleading and blaming. "We didn't know," they cried. "We trusted you to guide her." But I could see through their guilt. It was shallow, rehearsed, and meaningless. The truth was, they had chosen their favorite, and I had chosen myself. One afternoon, I received an unexpected visit. It was the local business council coming to congratulate me on the seamless legal structure and operational mastery I had established. They couldn't stop praising how I had transformed a shaky family business into an unbreakable nonprofit, securing both community care and staff jobs. Lena had been left with nothing, while I had built something that would last for generations. The sight of her face when she realized the council was on my side. Priceless. Her arrogance had always been her downfall, and now the world was seeing it too. I didn't need to humiliate her. I just needed to step back and let reality do its work. But just as I thought the storm was over, a new twist hit. One of Lena's old friends, someone she had trusted with insider details, leaked her attempts to manipulate vendors and employees. It spread like wildfire on social media, her lies, her schemes, her false sense of control. People were talking. Lena's credibility wasn't just shaken, it was shattered. And in that chaos, I realized something profound. The real victory wasn't in taking control from her. It was in stepping away from the need for their approval, in building something unstoppable without needing anyone's praise. Lena's breakdown, my parents' panic, the whispers in the community, all of it was just collateral. Yet even as I savored the silent satisfaction, I knew this wasn't the end. Lena's pride wouldn't let her stay down for long. She was plotting something behind closed doors, and when that moment came, I had to be ready to face her again. Because some battles don't end with a single move, they end with strategy, patience, and the perfect reveal. Weeks later, the final act of the story unfolded, and I didn't need to raise my voice or make a scene. Lena had tried every trick, every loophole, every desperate plea, but the foundation's legal walls were unbreakable. Every attempt she made only highlighted her lack of preparation and understanding. My quiet patience had outmaneuvered her frantic energy. The day came when my parents finally understood the depth of what I had done. They sat me down, shame and awe mingling on their faces. "Sophia, we had no idea," my mother whispered. "We thought we were giving her the business." My father nodded, his eyes heavy with regret. But it was too late. I had already built a life and a structure that belonged to me alone. And Lena? She stood outside, broken, humiliated, and powerless. All the years of favoritism, all the golden child status, they hadn't prepared her for a world where the quiet one could rise and dominate without anyone realizing it until the reveal. She realized painfully that power isn't given, it's built, protected, and earned. I never shouted. I never humiliated her publicly, but the effect was undeniable. The employees, vendors, and community saw the truth. Lena was a figurehead. I was the one with authority, vision, and control. And the best part? I didn't need their approval or validation. I had created something sustainable, something meaningful, and something mine. As I walked away from the final confrontation, the weight I had carried for years, the invisible daughter, the overlooked sister, lifted completely. Freedom tasted sweet. I wasn't running from my family anymore. I had stepped into my own life on my own terms, stronger than anyone had expected. The buildings my parents and Lena thought were valuable were just physical shells. The real legacy, the real power was already mine. And I had done it without yelling, without drama, without breaking a single law. The quietest, most overlooked daughter had outsmarted them all. In the end, I didn't just claim a business. I claimed my life, my respect, and my freedom. And as I looked back one last time at the stunned faces of my family, I realized the ultimate victory isn't revenge, just walking away with dignity, knowing you've won without destroying anyone. Sophia had finally stepped out of the shadows, and this time, she would never be underestimated again.